All right, it is 5 o'clock on Monday, December the 29th. The 19th. What did I read? 29th. Oh, well. Yeah, darn. Let's go back a couple of days. Monday, December the 19th, 2022, 5 o'clock. The BEDC Board reserves the right to convene into executive session at any time during the meeting regarding any agenda item in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Government Code. All right, so we're going to go into public comments. Do we have any public comments today?
No, sir, we do not.
All right, very good. All right, then we'll get into Section 3, Regular Business and Presentations. 3.1, Approval of Meeting Minutes from the BEDC Regular Board Meeting of November 21st, 2022.
I move to approve the meeting minutes as submitted.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Very good. Number 3.2, receive financial report provided by City of Bastrop Chief Financial Officer for the period ending November 2022 and any treasurer's comments.
So we haven't been doing an actual presentation lately. They are in the financials are in the slide deck if somebody wants to see them.
No, that's fine. Does
Okay.
anybody have any comments? Richard, do you have anything in particular or anything?
I have no comments. Everything looks fine.
Any discussion or any comments? Okay, very good. We'll move on then. Okay, 3.3, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve Resolution 2022-0010, authorizing the execution of a new lease for the BEDC office located on 301 Highway 71, Suite 214.
Good evening, Board. Happy holidays to everybody. As we discussed at last month's meeting, our lease was coming up at the expiration of this month, and we wanted to make sure that we got into another agreement with our current landlord pending our future location, should we decide to change in the next 12 to 24 months. The landlord has agreed that we can do a one-year lease, increasing the lease amount $200 a month from $3,400 to $3,600. He had mentioned he was going to ask for an increase anyway. However, this also gives us the ability to extend for an additional 12 months at the same rate if we choose to do that while we're looking for another location. So that was our negotiation with him, and we would appreciate the board's approval in signing the new lease agreement, which will take effect January 1.
Okay, need a motion on that?
I make a motion to approve Resolution R 2022-0010.
Second that.
Any discussion on this? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, 3.4, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve Resolution 2022-0011, authorizing the execution of agreement with Placer AI Location Analytics.
Yes, thank you. This is an analytical firm that uses real-time data, meaning that we can basically get information about who was shopping where yesterday, today. They have we have the ability to access that at our computers, as well as calling them and getting direct information from them. I've worked with Placer AI in the past. I like their format, and I like their responsiveness, and I would appreciate the ability to be able to bring them on as a new service for the Development Corporation.
Brett, would this be taking the place of anybody else that we're currently using that does a similar type of program?
Yes, we're not anticipating continuing on with Retail Coach at this point in time. They're at $14,500 a year.
When's their contract up?
February, I believe.
Okay, so we'd be starting the new contract in February then? We're going to let the other one run out, or are we going to start like January the 1st?
They would like us to start in January and go for a calendar year. But, you know, we can either have some overlap, and we've already paid Retail Coach, because we pay them in 2 installments over the year, so we've already paid them for through the expiration of their contract in February. So that money is out there. We're not going to get that back. We can start with Placer AI in January, and there'd be overlap, but it's not like we're expending that funds twice because it's already expended once.
So what is your recommendation and the staff's recommendation?
We would like to get going with Placer AI as soon as possible, at the beginning of the year.
Had you used Placer in your previous position?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than the price difference, is there something that Placer's bringing to the table the retail coach has not?
Retail Coach is, I want to be fair to them. I've not worked with Retail Coach before. I've seen their presentation in numerous communities and have met with the folks numerous times. I haven't enjoyed the approach and the data gathering. I think Placer AI is a little more cutting edge. I do believe that actually Retail Coach now is trying to use a lot of the same type of technology to catch up, but I've just enjoyed Placer AI's approach to giving us the information a little bit quicker.
So better for the community.
I think so. I mean, because it's, when you are a retail consultant, you tend to also work for the retailers that might be looking for a location, so there might be the potential of bias, and I only say potential, I'm not accusing anybody, but there might be the potential of bias of recommending one particular franchise or one particular store over another. And Placer AI does not do that. Placer AI just is a completely analytics firm that gathers the data and can, push it along to you in real time.
Outstanding, thank you.
So is this a subscription-based model, basically delivered through the cloud, or are you installing something on desktops, laptops, what?
It's a subscription model. Most of it is, we would have the ability to access their website information through our connectivity, our contact information, but we can also pick up the phone at any point in time and get one of their techs on the phone to help us narrow down the correct information that we're trying to get.
So do they do a gap analysis as well?
For job creation or retail?
Retail.
Yes. Yeah, they can, and it's very unique data, and quite honestly, in the state of Texas, they use Buc-ee's as kind of a viewpoint in most cities, and so they can tell you, they'll tell us right now, I mean, you can swing by the office when we hook this up, they can tell you who's shopping at our Buc-ee's, where they come from, where they go afterwards, and even track it to, hundreds of miles away, and it tends to be that a lot of people stop at Buc-ee's. So if they're stopping at Buc-ee's here, they're probably going to stop at the Buc-ee's in Katy or the Buc-ee's in Baytown or something like that. So it's very unique. That's just one example, but yeah, they can tell us absolutely what we're missing. I've used them to help attract another grocery store in a previous community because we could show the level of support for H-E-B in our market, and an H-E-B that was only about 5 miles away, and we could compare the shopping numbers to a Costco, which everybody loves to talk about, bringing a Costco into a community, and we could show that the numbers from H-E-B were almost identical to what Costco looks at for their type of format, even though they're a subscription model, right, where you pay a service to get in there.
Okay, I think I may have called it the wrong thing. I guess I'm looking at the gap analysis from, the other way I've heard economic development directors speak with me about it is leakage.
Oh, yeah.
Are people, when they're shopping somewhere else, that if that retail service was offered here, we would be able to capture those sales tax dollars here?
Yes, they can, yeah, by tracking the typically cell phone data nowadays, they can tell you who's going where to shop from out of our community. They can find that, and they can tell us exactly where they're going to shop, which will tell us what we're missing.
Okay, so I've heard it described as sales tax leakage or retail gap analysis of what we need in the community. And are you saying that that's a standard reporting, or is that something we would have to pay for extra for
No,
Placer to
that's
provide?
part of this. That's part of this program. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So we're going to have missed Christmas, right? Because everybody's Christmas shopping is going on now, and we've already paid for something through February. So is there, I understand that you're saying, well, we're not paying it twice because we've already paid it. Well, if we've already paid it and then we're paying somebody else, then we are paying twice for I guess, for January and February. Is retail paid through the end of February? And so like if it was a March 1st, there would be no overlap?
I'm not sure the engagement rate.
I don't recall off the top of my head the date that the agreement was executed, but I could find it if you.
But we've certainly paid for beyond December 19th.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we can absolutely hold off until the end of February and engage with Placer AI beginning March 1.
I just didn't know
that's the-
if what we were missing, because it would have been awesome to have that information for November and December, and this sounds wonderful. I'm just wanting to know, how much are we losing other than $2,000? Because we could put that towards the end of the contract.
Yeah.
Right? 12 months is 12 months, so.
I can always ask them if they'll give us the next 2 months for gratis as we're learning the program anyway, and then start the contract on March 1. I don't know if they'll go for that or not, but
Oh, I'm not trying to make people do something for free. I'm trying to not pay two different businesses that
Sure.
are doing the same thing for 2 months.
well, I mean, regardless of us signing on with Placer AI or when we sign on with Placer AI, we still have the ability to get and collect whatever information we want from Retail Coach through the expiration of their contract, which had happened sometime in February. So we can
I
get
thought
you
she
that
just said
information.
she didn't know when Retail Coach is up.
What I meant to say was I don't know when it was signed, when the date of the executed agreement was signed, but we're looking at the resolution right now, and it's the 28th of February, 2022.
Oh, but that's when it's signed, but you're not sure of what the terms might have been like March to March or
It's
something?
a year, but yeah, I guess it could be March 1st to March 1st.
I was just trying to not have an overlap if possible. That was my question.
Whenever we start subscribing to Placer, we would have access to back history information, correct?
Oh, from them?
Yeah.
Certainly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't we do it this way then? Why don't we just agree to start the new subscription when the other one ends, so that there is no overlap? So that gives you a time to check the contract to make sure what the exact terms are, and it also gives us a close and start date, would be
Okay.
my recommendation, is that we just go ahead and say, yeah, I think it's a good idea to do that, to change over, but let's use what we've already paid for till the end of the term, and then that way we don't have to come back here and then approve it yet again, right? So if that works for everybody here, does that sound acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay. Then, I mean, is there a resolution here? I guess there is a resolution here, right? So, I guess, okay, then we'll need a motion to approve the resolution.
I make a motion to approve Resolution R 2022-0011.
If you don't mind, let me add on to that with the caveat that we start it at the end of the term of the other company that we're using, correct?
I amend my motion to have the start date for Placer AI at the conclusion of the retail expert contract.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much, Brett. Okay, let me go back up here to the agenda.
Chair, could we also, on the Placer, that's going to be really cool data. Could the board get some sort of an update as a part of our packet monthly, whatever's, you know, and staff can certainly choose what you want to share, but it'd be kind of cool to see,
Sure.
you know, what we're getting. Thank you very much. That'd be great.
Okay, 3.5, discussion and possible action regarding potential secondary funding of a revolving loan fund implementation date. And I'm going to read it anyway, but there's going to be a caveat when I finish this statement. And approval of resolution R 2022-0012, authorizing matching funds in the amount of $20,000 per year for a period not to extend 5 years. Before you start on this, we cannot have a resolution on this. This is the first time we're hearing about it. If there were to be
So according to council, yes, I will agree. However, the original monies that were donated to us by Roscoe Bank do not require going through council approval because they are not taxpayer-funded dollars. So those, council, we just discussed that before.
And perhaps a little clarification from our legal, please, because I was under the impression differently.
Well, I thought the resolution is for 20,000 of matching funds, and that would be tax
Right.
dollars.
The
That's
resolution, that's right, Mayor. So the resolution is for the matching funds. So the matching funds are what needs to be approved by you to recommend to say, yes, we agree to the 20,000, to approve that to go to city council for 2 readings. So that's why you do need to do the resolution for the matching funds, to recommend the matching funds to city council.
Okay, that was my slight misunderstanding of it then. Okay.
And to kind of backdate all of this, obviously, if everybody remembers last month, Roscoe State Bank was very gracious in considering us and donating $100,000 to us over a 5-year period, $20,000 a year. And the conversation that I've had with you guys is to create a revolving loan fund out of those monies. And if we are successful with this program, $20,000 on a micro side, giving out up to $10,000 loans. Obviously, there's only 2 loans. I want to make sure that we have enough resources that we can really get out and market this and use it for some of the small businesses in our city. So that's why I thought it would be nice if we could match those dollars. Obviously, at that point in time, I was not aware we had to take the matching dollars through council's approval, but I don't see that as an issue either. Y'all have had an opportunity, sorry, board. Y'all have had an opportunity to look over the guidelines. I'm looking for some additional guidance on the guidelines from you guys at this point in time. If we are generally okay with them, I still am going to run them by legal and work with our legal department to make sure that, I'm not a lawyer when I wrote it. Obviously, we want to make sure that a lawyer does look through it and make sure that we're in agreement and compliance with everything that we're supposed to be doing. And so if that happens, then we'll get it in front of our attorney, and then I can report back to you in January where we are, the status of that. But by that point in time, those guidelines should be finalized through the legal process as well.
Can I ask what the roles are going to be? The BEDC and Roscoe Bank, would they be administering the loans? And we were suggesting.
So I have not approached a bank yet because I wanted to make sure I had board approval to do this. Once we have board approval and the guidelines, then yes, I would absolutely like to approach a bank to administer the loans on our behalf. Obviously, to me, it makes most sense to work with Roscoe because they were gracious in doing this. But in my past, I can tell you that not all banks want to be a part of a smaller loan program like this because there is a belief that sometimes the output of their employees would be greater than the 2% that we'd be potentially willing to give them out of the 4% loan to manage it. The banks always agree, though, that it's our money that's backstopping this. So if we're putting $10,000 in and they're loaning $10,000 out, they're not on the hook for anything financially, but it is just the potential day-to-day, or in this case, monthly operations of managing the note.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
From a small business perspective, do you have an inkling as to what you would be targeting at this point?
Not specifically. I mean, I don't like to pigeonhole things. I do believe we have some businesses that have come to us. One is on the restaurant side right now. One is an entrepreneur that might be looking to start a service-related type of business, something like that we can help fund. And again, this program also means that the person who's starting the business has to have some financial resources in it as well. We all know that you can't start a business for $10,000, for example. But the program does mandate that you put at least 10% into the program. So if they're coming to us for $10,000, they have to have at least $1,000 into it. And of course, again, it would be very challenging for someone to start a business on $11,000. So we're anticipating that they're going to have some equity in this, and we just want to do what we can to be a good partner locally to help some of those small businesses get started. The guidelines, by the way, when you read them, do talk about a macro loan as well. At this point in time, I wanted to make sure that they were that language was in the guidelines that we can do a larger loan, but that's not my recommendation to roll this out. My recommendation is to roll it out on the microloan program so we can effectuate more businesses, hopefully here in the year 2023.
I'm actually glad you brought that up because I was wanting to have a lot more discussion on this from the board here of what the feelings were on the macro, because we understand that the micro makes a lot of sense. To me, it makes a lot of sense, but the macro, I think that would really encourage a lot more discussion on that because it's a lot more than the 20,000. But if you're not going to be making that recommendation, then I'm assuming that the guidelines are going to change. We're going to have an opportunity to take a look at that. You're still going to be talking with legal to get their input into it, correct?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Brett, what's your experience, have you had experience with this kind of a loan, Brett?
I have. I've worked with this program when I was in the city of Rock Island, Illinois. We had a program there that still exists to this day. I want to say that we might have been out of 20, I'm going to tell you there's probably about 20 to 25 loans that were made. I believe 2 of them went bad. And I know we collected on one of them. I don't know before I left there if they collected on the other one. The way this is set up, and it really has impacted more of the small businesses, those who would take the $10,000, for example, and at a 4% note on a 5-year window, you're looking at about $190 a month in a payment. We also make sure that the business person signs a personal guarantee that they're going to pay the monies back as well. So it's a way that we have to be good stewards of this money, but also good stewards to our local small businesses who we want to help out. But you know, I don't ever want to put us in a position where we're being taken advantage of. So program worked successfully there. My previous community before I came here, we had just instituted it. So I'm guessing that they're moving forward with it, but it was approved by the MDD board there, and we were working with the bank to get it funded, or to manage the note.
Do you remember if most of it was creation or expansion?
My experience has always been for new business. The one expansion project that we worked on took a macro loan up towards of $100,000. It was a manufacturing facility that was adding, I think, 10,000 square feet to their space. And between what they were injecting into it and their bank financing, they needed a bridge. And we came in as the bridge at $100,000. And then we also UCC'd their equipment. So should something have happened to it, we could also track the equipment and get that back and sell that and make some of the proceeds back to pay for that. But that's the only macro loan that I worked on, and quite honestly, that was 6 or 7 years ago in a previous community, so I haven't followed through with where that's at.
So the expectation here is to start with the $10,000 loan, right?
Yes, sir.
So most of it retail, or what's your experience there?
It does tend to be more retail or service-related businesses, meaning it could be a restaurant concept. I've seen a hair salon come to us. I've had a massage therapist who's come to us to get started. And by the way, it doesn't have to be $10,000. So I've given out loans. We've worked through the process and had loans as low as like $6,000, $5,000. It's just a way that somebody, when I'm working with a small business, I always hate to see them max out their credit cards to get into business. So they tend to do that anyway. And then we want to be able to help them with signage, painting, things that they haven't thought about when they're buying their inventory and their furniture and fixtures for their location. And this just gives them that extra ability to do that.
So you might say it was primarily for hard assets, not to meet payroll. You're going to expand or buy equipment or
yes, but
signage.
yes, sir, but we don't normally put the restrictions on it for a startup business because a lot of times they don't have some type of income, so they do need to pay the electric bill or put food in their bellies. So with the personal guarantee attached to it that they have to pay it back, I'm a little more comfortable with having the parameters be a little bit broad. But quite honestly, it's tended to always be used for furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
So primarily, 2 points. Number one, the staff would be taking a look at it with the different criteria and make sure that whoever it is that's coming for the loan would meet that criteria, and then you would come to us and say, this is what you're going to be trying to do, correct?
Well, yes, and there's a secondary part of the program, obviously, where it would be our recommendation that we have at least a 3-member committee from the board who, after we are vetting these people and this project, we're bringing it to whomever that board, that committee might consist of the board. So we're having yet another secondary set of eyes. We know that as economic development people, we can tend to be a little over-enthusiastic about trying to help someone get into business, and we want to make sure that we are still kept in check in what we're doing. So there would be a subcommittee who would also look at this over. And the secondary part of that subcommittee is the person who is coming in looking for the loan has to come in and present themselves, so y'all can ask questions directly of them that we may have missed as well. We want to make sure that whoever we're helping has the ability to sell themselves as well as sell their business, because if they can't sell themselves, as we all know, they're not going to be in business long to sell their business.
Okay, and just for clarity, we would only be looking at a total of $20,000 per year, no matter how many people come to talk to us about it. So it could be one 10,000 or two 10,000. It could be 4 or 5,000s. It could be
Well,
multiple
isn't it 40
1,000s.
since Roscoe's in for 20 and we're talking about matching for 20? Isn't it,
Well,
are
when
we
we-
starting with 40?
So when we get to that point, I mean, I'm using the term 20 because we don't have that we don't have that agreement yet. But should we get that agreement, I will then agree with
Gotcha,
you.
I got you.
that-
So the
yes.
20 you're saying that we're starting with is the Roscoe 20?
Yes, that's the 20 we're starting with. Until such time we all prove that we want to do matching funds, which would raise it to 40, then the threshold would be a total of 40,000 per year. Is that?
That's
is
correct.
that-
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. Thank you.
And can I ask a clarifying question? You said that they would come to us. You would have them present at a monthly board meeting, or they would be presenting to the 3-person subcommittee?
I would think at this point in time, you'd want them to present to a smaller subcommittee, and that committee would make the recommendation. I think if we've walked through the process of vetting them and getting them through a subcommittee, I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. It could be that they would then come in and present themselves to the board as well. That might take up a little more time during a meeting than what was anticipated. And sometimes folks don't necessarily want to talk about their business until they're in business as well, so they might not want to do it in a public forum.
And that was kind of why I was asking. I understand that sometimes you're not ready to pull the plug on that. And the way that it's written, it's there, you're asking this board to delegate authority and to appoint the subcommittee board, but your words tonight make me think that the 3 people would be off of this board. But I thought I had read somewhere that like someone from Roscoe might be one of the subcommittee boards. Did I misunderstand that?
So in the past, I have worked with folks from the general public to sit on that type of a committee. It was not my impression at this point in time that we would do that. I thought that we would be able to take 3 members of this board to sit on the committee. Of course, that's the board's decision on what you want to do. But yes, I have worked in, when I was in Rock Island, for example, we had a 5-member board that had someone from a financial institution, someone from our downstate, our Main Street program, downtown program. We had a nonprofit community partner that did workforce training. So that was and there was somebody from the city manager's office and economic development. We comprised of that committee. My goal out of it is, however we address this other subcommittee, assuming that the board wants to do that, is to make sure that we as staff have a set of eyes that are going to look at this before it goes out. So.
I'm fine with that. Chair Spencer, I just, that may be one of those details, and our counsel, Mr. Zeck and his firm may have some recommendations on how to define that and what authority we can delegate and what we can't and all that kind of good stuff. And I know that that's your intention, is to run it past them. So
Yeah,
I was just really trying to get clarity around what you were proposing, because I couldn't comment on it if I wasn't clear about what was in the proposal.
Right, we have the right to set up subcommittees of 3 people, but I'd like to understand, can we have somebody that's not on the board that may be able to do that? And that would need clarification from our legal staff. Lyle, you have?
As a kind of follow-up, in the history or to your knowledge, in the utilization of public funds for this type of assistance? Or are you aware of any legal impediment or pitfalls that we may want to look for or be aware of and hopefully mitigate?
When it comes to the use of public funds, each state is different in this type of a loan program and the way they've used it. I will give for example, in Rock Island, we used federal dollars to create the program. So those monies were locked into that program. They could never be used for anything else. And if you lost all of the money, then of course you had to talk to the feds about how you lost it, why you lost it, and where the oversight lacked on the program. Here, we're obviously a little bit different. We're not looking to use federal dollars for this. We're looking to use the gift that was given to us and then the potential of some of the taxpayer dollars. So out on the taxpayer dollar side, if this month, next month, the board approves going and matching $20,000, then yes, that has to have the oversight, according to council, of city council first to be able to go into the program. Outside of that, I would defer to legal on their determination on what type of other restrictions or guidelines we might need on that.
Yeah, so right now, if I'm going to kind of sum it up and see if we're all thinking the same thing. Number one, you're going to redo and kind of finalize the guidelines that you've put together. You're also going to come up with criteria of how you would recommend whatever company wants to come in. You're also going to take those guidelines and the criteria and pass it over to legal for their review. And then you're going to come and talk to us about what you found on your review with legal and whatnot. And then we can continue on the conversation of a resolution of matching funds, perhaps on the next meeting, correct? Is that everybody's understanding?
Only one thing is, maybe we can talk about it at that meeting. How about the marketing? How are we going to get it out to the public as to this is available?
Right. And that's a position that we need to talk about.
Okay.
We'll have that conversation, I think, shortly.
So Chairman Ron, I would suggest that we continue to look at the resolution, since it does have to go to council, and have a first reading and a second reading to get it on the council's agenda. I understand we still have definition to occur, but
Has legal reviewed the resolution that's in the packet?
We reviewed the resolution a little bit. I would rather tighten it up. I know because of the fact that there might be some revisions to the agreement. And then also at the next meeting, there should be a public hearing. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be put in the newspaper or anything. It just has to be listed on the agenda for this project. So we can do that, work on the tweaks that we need for the program, and then tweak the resolution for the type of project and identify that within the resolution and update the resolution and bring it all as one package along with the public hearing at the next meeting. And then at that point, you can make your recommendation. And the process is 2 separate readings, and then you have to wait 60 days to expend the funds after that, after the second reading, the EDC.
so do we need a
Under the
resolution to
statute.
table this?
No, we do not need a resolution to table this. What we do, we've already given guidance to the CEO to continue on refining the guidelines, refining the criteria, getting it over to legal, making sure everybody's on the same page with that so they can bring it back to us during the next meeting. Therefore, we can have a much better, higher level discussion with more data points on that.
One last data point, and if it's in here, I apologize. I call myself having read it twice, but I'm sure I'm not as familiar with it as you are, is once the loan's given, there's some sort of, is there a metric of success beyond they paid the loan back?
Certainly, as long as we've been able to keep somebody in business out of it, I think that's one of the metrics that we want to stand by. That's why the term is also a 5-year period of it. This is, obviously, it's slightly different from talking about incubation. And I think one of these days we're going to get into a conversation about how we can help to incubate businesses. And at that point in time, then we'll have a little bit more of a direct hands-on approach on how we're going to help those businesses succeed. On a loan program, I don't want to walk in and be heavy-handed and be able to look over somebody's financials or how they're marketing and things like that. But I do believe that we are a small enough community that we would pay attention to the businesses that we're assisting, either by seeing them if we're at a business next door, or certainly patronizing their establishment, depending on what it is.
And you anticipate the length, I know the length will depend on the amount, but for Chair Spencer's example, a $10,000 loan, how long would you think that loan would be for?
5 years, we'd give them a 5-year period.
A 5-year period for a $10,000 loan? Okay.
Yeah.
I think that when we have more discussion on that, there may be a little bit more discussion. I mean, personally speaking, as a business person, that's a really long time for a very small loan. So we don't have to decide it right now, but just my personal opinion, that may be a little bit too long, but that's a discussion point.
And maybe there's
Yeah,
some
you could-
metrics that it's between amounts, depending on what the amount
Right,
is.
like a laddered scale, yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Any further discussion on this item? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to be moving on then to 3.6, which is the update, discussion, and possible action regarding Bastrop Business and Industrial Park infrastructure projects, specifically Technology Drive and South Street.
Yes, thank you. So based on our conversation last month of how we're going to move forward with the business park, we do have some properties on Phase 2 that we need to start being able to get marketed and sold. And part of that is creating the right type of infrastructure as quickly as we can to get it into place so we can literally be able to take people out there to show them the properties that we want to market. Out of those discussions in our budget for the last couple of years, there's been, I believe, $1 million has been set aside for Technology Drive to expand it to the north. It's already been, I'm told, engineered, and this $1 million was for construction of it. So at the north end of where it is now, it would continue to run north to the south section of MLK Boulevard. And that opens up some acreage for us along that road that is currently not available for us to market. It would be some smaller property that we could look at some smaller opportunities that are going to come in. We're having a conversation with one right now that only needs about 2.5 acres, for example. So that's one of the opportunities that I would like to go ahead and get cleaned up.
Is this map in our packet?
I don't recall if this is Angela.
Is this map in our packet? No, this is the
I
one you
can't swear to
emailed
that.
us.
I think that we just added this today, so no, I don't think so. We didn't print this one?
Nope.
Okay.
This is what you printed and this is what you emailed. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for interrupting. I was just going to blow it up so I could actually see it. So, okay, keep going.
We can, I'm sure, get that emailed out subsequent to.
And please use the pointer because my old eyes can't see it either.
So he was talking to the north, or I'm sorry, to the south of MLK. That is this section here. This section here is where it connects to Business Park Drive and the existing Technology Drive next to the new hydrology facility. Does that make sense? And then this piece here, the blue, green, and orange, as well as this blue, is the detention pond, and then drainage under and back over to Gills Branch.
Okay, so you said we've already got the engineering already completed on this, and so what are we waiting on then?
That's a good question. That's why I'm here to ask. There's been some funding set aside to do this. So if the engineering is done, I would like to go ahead and, clean this off of our books and get this done.
We're talking Technology Drive, correct?
Correct.
I thought that part of the issue, because I feel like we've talked about this project since the beginning of time, but one of the things that's changed is now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you drive Technology north and hook up with MLK, you find yourself at a retaining wall for 71. And when this project was originally designed, that was not the case.
not aware. With,
So where I'm going with that is when we're looking at stuff like this and there gets to be other ways out, the concern is the existing MLK to College is very, very residential and has weird access because of the 71 improvements. And I thought that when this, because we had kind of started working on it, and then when all the 9 bridges from TxDOT came on board, it was like, wait a minute, does this still make sense? Is anybody, am I alone here?
No,
Anybody
I was
sound
under the
familiar?
impression that when we had to revisit because of all the bridges and the changes of 71, we had talked about taking Technology Drive up to South Street and having it connect to South Street. And that's been my understanding of it. I know we've had several, as you said, we've been talking about it for the last 5.5 years, but that's my recollection also. So it maybe a little clarification, Gene?
So, don't have a map to show this, but a couple of streets up is also Jasper Street that connects back over to Jackson Street. That was also a connector. Originally, when we started working on this project in 2016, and then the contract was signed in 2018, the county wanted to actually abandon South Street because they were going to connect it with the jail, which was the Justice Center on the 9.5 acres. So, which is also why the detention goes across South Street. I think when there were questions on whether or not we were going to sell that lot is when the project itself came to a halt, because that obviously would stop the detention. If we were going to keep South Street open, we were going to have to reconfigure all of the detention that is east of Technology Drive.
What is the street between Jasper and South?
Mills, maybe?
Okay, if we were to go up to Mills, and I'm just assuming that's the name of it, that there's no residential in between South and Mills, correct?
There is county buildings across that road. And I could be way wrong on what the actual...
The map that's printed out actually shows Jasper.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
looking at,
gotcha.
and it's like, that's why I was looking at the next street, whether it's Mills or not. You're saying that goes into a county building?
That is correct. The one that is in between Jasper and
Okay.
South Street, yes.
So then,
So access back to the east would either have to come from South Street and we reconfigure the detention pond, or we look at connecting across to Jasper, which is a complete road and has commercial there.
yeah, if you got like 3, maybe only 3 residents there or something on that one, it's not
If
heavily.
that, yes.
Okay. That's in city limits too, correct?
So the
Yes, sir.
northbound of Technology, this project that we're talking about, is Jasper, or what is the northern boundary of it?
So the northern boundaries, as Brett mentioned, is the southern part of MLK.
Which is in
Which is where we
horrible-
stop.
Which is in horrible shape.
Yes, and if, of course, many of you were not here along that whole path, but the conversation was that the city would start reviewing what needed to be done, because there are some residents that sit along, like literally right at the street, and so they would have to review what would need to be done on that northern connector to go that direction. There have been numerous conversations to stop any actual, like, big truck traffic coming in and out on that section, and it would just be small vehicle traffic. We've discussed that. We've discussed kind of making a temporary access point for right now. So there have been numerous discussions along the way as to what to do at that interchange.
What do the engineering drawings show? Is that the engineering drawing?
Yes,
right
sir.
there? That's it, okay. And right now, that goes all the way up to MLK is what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
And that was in 16 when she.
20, yeah.
That was long before 9 bridges from TxDOT.
So it would lead me to think we need to settle on the engineering and come up with which access point we're going to use That would at least be what my common sense would tell me.
So all of this was discussed just last year with the county and the EDC, and that is still where everybody is kind of
okay.
at, so.
And I can add that there's at least one new commercial establishment along MLK. So I'm not sure how long MLK will remain being a residential type of neighborhood, not that anybody's driving anybody out. But as you get closer to 71, you will notice that, as it happens in any community, along the busier freeways, the frontage becomes commercial versus the residential purposes.
Well, that's exactly the point. It's not really a commercial frontage because there's no bridge over the railroad tracks. So you're not along the frontage road. The only traffic that's on the road in front of the 71 and the homes that we're talking about are U-turning, which you can't, so there's very limited traffic there because you can't get over the railroad tracks. It's not along, you guys know what it's not along the frontage road, and there's the retaining wall for the 71 traffic. So it's really like a little quiet, in the shade of the bridge neighborhood, which it was not when it was originally designed. And there was discussion about, at one point, that MLK was going to be a major throughput to the convention center and all kinds of other stuff. But now, that was before 9 bridges were built by TxDOT.
I think we need to see another map here myself. That would be my recommendation. I know we've been working on this for a long time, and I'm not trying to throw a monkey wrench in here, but what you have up here doesn't seem to match what we're able to do because of the way that the road and the bridges are and everything else right now. Am I the only one thinking that? Okay. I mean, I hate to ask it, but I think we really need maybe a little bit more information, a better map that shows exactly where it is, and maybe some alternates as far as wood mill, what would it take to make Jasper the north side of it, or west side, whatever that is? What would be some options here? So, I mean, right now we're looking at MLK. I'm not sure that would be an appropriate endpoint.
Just so everybody is clear, wrong direction. So this piece, right, this technology piece, is within the boundaries of the EDC Industrial Park.
Got it.
Everything beyond that becomes, and not that the industrial park is not part city street, but the point is that's a whole nother level of discussion that the city was supposed to come up with ideas and concepts to help connect that over the years. And we still have not done that, and we've been asked to move forward with projects that we have on the books, and it's fully funded, it's fully engineered, so that's why we're bringing it back to you.
Then it would sound to me like we need to have more discussions with the city to see where they are because things have changed. Would that not make sense?
I think there may be 2 different projects, if that makes sense. And so as things continue to develop along that upper Jasper area, as it already is, then those evaluations for MLK will start becoming part of that overall improvement. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. That's why I'm thinking we need to have more discussions with the city to see where the city's, I mean, you guys are here. Please come up and have a conversation.
So let me chime in also. We continue to say that it's engineered, and yet I'm hearing
It's not.
that there are obstacles to what was defined or what is defined. Does it need to step back and relook at engineering?
And I'm nodding my head, yes,
Yeah.
sorry, Sylvia Garcia, City Manager. Probably unbeknownst to you as well is some of the engineering is pre-Atlas 14 data, so that's one problem, right? We've got to come up with additional drainage issue. 2, TxDOT reconfiguration. We need to take that into account. And 3, probably come back and revisit, number 1, the construction and everything else that goes along with it, and a better partnership to make that what it should be, as opposed to another offset to the developer on additional construction, or to us, or to the city. It's got to be a three-way in order for that entire circulation to work properly.
That makes a lot more sense to me.
Look, my goal out of this is to get these projects off the books. These have been things that have been hanging out there for numerous years, and I've inherited them, so I'm just saying it's in our best interest for our business park to get the circulation done properly. I apologize that I'm not an engineer, and I'm just dealing with the engineering that was given to me.
Yeah. No, Brett, I mean, look, yeah, we do need to get moving with these things we've already approved. We've got several things we've already approved that have been languishing, but we've also had a lot of changes over the last 5 years.
Well, and some of them languish for a good reason.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you know, things happen, right? So all I'm suggesting is that, yeah, let's have those meetings. Let's get an updated, let's come up with a strategy, bring it here, and let's get on with this program would be my suggestion. Is that
So not to belabor the point then, but the second issue is dealing with South Street. I think before we get into a conversation about that, then I will meet with city staff to discuss all of these things, then we will come back to you, because that again is another project that has funding in it for this year and is vitally important for the ingress egress for our business park. It was initially established to be an opportunity for the studio project, but our council has told us that in his opinion, it is not close enough to that project to attach to it. However, we can still do the South Street project because of our business park and the attachment to that. So if that's acceptable to the board, then I would say we'll work with the city and we'll come back with recommendations or suggestions or additional information next month.
Yeah, we're going to have to come back and talk a little bit more about that. That's right. So.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
On the proximity to the movie studio, was it not their own TIA that suggested that might be a viable alternative relative to the traffic?
I believe it was, yes, and I'm not sure why council has decided to suggest it isn't. You know, unfortunately, he's on vacation with his family right now, and I couldn't talk to him directly about that. But that was his recommendation that came down to the EDC, was that he didn't feel it was attachable enough to the project. So,
He being who, once again?
our attorney.
Okay. All right. So that has been reviewed by our legal staff?
Yes.
I see the city manager is there. Perhaps she can add some insight
I'm not
to it.
your attorney, I'm not your counsel.
I
I'm
understand.
pretending to be.
And
I'm not pretending to be, but it does seem to me that we probably need a joint meeting to get all of these projects off kilter and where they are off the ground. So offering our assistance, we all need to get together. It is, after all, taxpayer money. I don't want to keep spending good after bad. So
Yes.
please, let's look at a date in January to do a joint meeting.
That's
Happy to do
a
that.
wonderful
Happy
idea.
to do that.
Yes.
Thank you.
I agree. I think we should definitely do that. Okay. All right. All right. Well, I think we've finished the discussion on 3.6. There's more work to be done on that. So we will move to 3.7. Update, discussion, and possible action on proceeding with finalization of the sale of the 9.525 acre lot located at 108 South Jackson Street, legally described as Business Industrial Park Phase 1, Block 8, Lot 1A, replat of Block 8 and Lot 3A, Block D, the property, approved via Resolution R 2017-0024 on November the 20th, 2017. My gosh, that's been a long time. Take it away.
Yes, thank you. And this is one of the reasons why we're looking at trying to get these other projects completed, because obviously this has been out for 5 years as well. And the county has approached us again, and they want to move forward with the purchase of this property so they can construct their building. This would have an impact on South Street. Part of the conversation we've already had with the county is that we are not going to abandon any street rights of way, which they initially wanted. They agree to that, and that helps us to still continue to move forward with the South Street extension, which we anticipate doing. So this is really just cleaning this up to get the county to purchase the property and allow them to move forward. Obviously, it's at the board discretion. I agree that it's normally not in the best interest to sell property to agencies that will not put it on the tax rolls. But this is something that predates me, and obviously is 5 years old, and I think in a sense of goodwill and trying to continue to create better dialogue between us, the city, and the county, this is a project that I would recommend moving forward with, and then allowing us to work on the ILA between us and the county and the city.
Well, my understanding is they don't have funding for the building. Is that correct?
I have no idea.
So in 2017, some of us were on the board, some of us were not on the board, but we're in the community. We were begging people to come to the industrial park. And I had understood that that was one of the reasons that the county was approached, was because of the location of the county offices that were already there. But in the 5 years, I think they have, I think you told me this morning, I thought it was 300. You said it's a $500 escrow amount. So they posted escrow, but didn't sign an ILA, and didn't close on the project. So it doesn't seem like it was super important to them at the time. And it may have just flat out been that they don't have funding. I don't know, but for whatever reason, it's two people involved in the tango, right? And we haven't been approached by them for 5 years. In that 5 years, we're no longer begging people to come to the industrial park. You guys have brought great projects to us, and your phone's ringing on a pretty regular basis. And I want to share in public the comment that I made to you this morning. This property was purchased with city sales tax dollars for an industrial park. And now it's going to be purchased, and we as city residents pay city taxes and county taxes. And now county tax dollars are going to buy that property that was bought with city tax dollars and not generate any property tax. And I'm not sure how we as an entity explain that, particularly when I know that the county is right off of Lover's Lane on county property, expanding their Precinct 1 office, and so it would seem like the county could use property that's not in the city limits, we would be accepting property tax and hopefully some sort of sales tax or even more property tax as somebody makes an investment on the property. So and I know it's not the most prime property in the world, but I also know that, like, if I was selling my house and somebody put down we were talking about selling this for, I think in the resolution it says $100,000, is that correct?
Yes.
So if I had a $100,000 house that somebody put $500 down 5 years ago, I'm not sure I would feel obligated that I had made a deal if they were supposed to do an ILA, there were supposed to be some other steps taken. So I'm just saying, all things being equal, it's not November of 2017, it's December of 2022. Are we making the best decision for our taxpayers?
Let me ask you a question, if you don't mind, Brett. So is this kind of go along with what the last item was? We're trying to move projects off the books since we've had them on for such a long time. Is that what's driving this? Or has the county come and said, now we want to buy it?
Well, you'll recall that there was we were going to reach out, and that may have predated Brett, of reach out to them. So I think we may have started that conversation.
Okay, and a different discussion, that piece of property is it's not a very good piece of property. There was a whole lot of work that needed to be done, for those of you that weren't here. A lot of drainage, a lot of moving dirt, a lot of things that were on there, if I remember right, that need to be moved. I mean, it's not an ideal piece of property, but to the mayor's point, that was 2017. Things are completely different today than they were back then. So let me go back and ask the question. Is the county asking now that they want to close on this, Or is this coming out of, did we do something to make that come to fruition?
The county approached us about closing on this property because they want to move forward with their project. We do have a history of selling other properties in the business park to the county. I believe that there's at least 2 other buildings that are out there on site. And I'm not going to disagree with the mayor on the fact that I don't necessarily like to sell property to another nonprofit that is not going to put it on the tax rolls. But we do have a history of doing that in the business park. And we do have a history of this property being negotiated. Unfortunately, there isn't just 2 parties at this dance. There are 3 of us because there's the ILA includes the city. And I've been told that the city is the one, city council was the one who was not going to approve the ILA in whatever agreement it was written up, however long ago it was written up. And that's one of the reasons it has floundered. This project is not floundered because of the EDC. But certainly this is something that sits out there for us to move forward with. If we do not move forward with it with the county, then I do believe it's going to be a challenged piece of property for us to move forward with anybody else. Doesn't mean that we will not market it. And it certainly doesn't mean that we're not going to still request that we move forward with the South Street extension.
Right, but I'm going to go back to what was said a little bit earlier. If the ILA has not been signed, it would tell me that why is it now important? It's been on the books for 5 years. If it was important, somebody would be coming and talking to us and pushing, and I don't see that happening. This is the first I've heard of this in quite some time. So it's kind of like the last item that we talked about. I think we need an update here, and maybe it's a discussion with the city and us to see, are we on the same page? And then we go and talk to the county.
Well, I think this is, it's my understanding that this is, the ILA issue is between the city and the county. There's 3 parties to this interlocal. There are 3 parties to this interlocal. We are one of them, the city and the county are the other 2. The items that have been items of confusion, I'm told, and the reason that the city would not sign the contract are because they were in odds with some of the items that the county wants. One of them being the abandonment of roadways, which we have already talked to the county and said we are not going to abandon the roadways, and they've agreed to that. So before I can do anything further, I need to have permission to either move forward with this project and move forward with creating the terms of the ILA, which would happen between the city and the county and the EDC, or some direction on to say, no, we're not interested in moving forward in this project anymore, of which then we will have legal counsel, I think, draft a letter to the county letting them know that we are not going to follow through with the purchase of the property.
Well, I'm going to give you my 2 cents on what you just said. Number one, no, we are not ready to move forward with this project as far as I'm concerned. We don't have enough information, number one. Number 2, there is no ILA. The ILA is between 3 parties. The 3 parties either need to sit down, or at least 2 out of the 3 need to sit down and make sure we're on the same page. If we're not, then there is no deal. Yeah, we've talked about it 5 years ago, but there is no deal right now. We don't have an ILA. We don't really have a valid real estate contract on it. If all they did was put $500 down in escrow, nothing's been signed, therefore it is a moot point as far as a real estate transaction. I know that's more of a legal thing, but I do a lot of real estate, and I can tell you if there's no earnest money contract, there's no contract. So in my opinion, we're not ready to move forward with this. I think what we are ready is to have you do and staff do a lot more discussion and bring this up to see where we are today. Is it something we even want to do? We obviously have to have the city and the county involved in this because it's a 3-way agreement, so we're not even there yet. So I'll let somebody else speak.
Yeah, as a tripartite agreement, and the city, based on what you've been told, appears to be the impediment, should we not identify what that impediment is? If there's a good reason for it, perhaps it's non-existent. I'm not aware of any impediment on that. So discussion, to your point, Mr. Chair, is what is required at this point.
Yes, and that's why the last sentence of this request is to allow me to work with legal counsel in completing the terms of the ILA and return a finalized draft to you guys as the board. That would include working with the city and the county on this. Because honestly, the issues do not exist between the EDC and the county. The issues exist between the city and the county, but they are buying the property or attempting to buy the property from us, and therefore I have no problem being the conduit to make the conversation happen.
That's outstanding, and I'm in agreement. I think the first conversation should be with the city administration to ascertain if there really is an impediment to this ILA.
Okay.
Yes, because would have to believe that that was a prior folks in the administration, but I don't know. So yes, I mean, if you're asking to continue to start having the discussions with the city, I believe that's a proper approach.
Well, and I don't think we have anything in writing from the county saying that they're agreeing to not abandoning South Street, correct?
Not at this point in time. We do have
So
it's verbal agreement with the judge.
with Judge Poppy?
Mhm.
Okay, I thought you had told me it was with Commissioner Hamner,
It came from actually,
so not the judge.
So Commissioner Hamner and Commissioner Beckett both have also agreed with that, to not
Also, but
abandon.
including the judge or not
Yes,
including the judge?
including the judge.
And we have any of that in writing?
No.
Okay, so if, I'm not a real estate person, but I'm pretty sure if it's not in writing, it's not, that's a problem, and I'm pretty sure that they need to vote. I understand that 3 of them is enough to carry the vote, but, you know.
these are terms of the current ILA, however long ago it was drafted. The terms in there from the county wanted the roadways to be abandoned. The city did not.
Okay.
And yes, when we just picked this conversation up when they approached us 2 weeks ago, and I read the ILA, I certainly said, no, we're not going to abandon the roadways, and they agreed to it. So that's how quickly this has all happened. It just all came up in the last 2 weeks. So the current form, however old it is of the ILA, that is one of the sticking points, or has been one of the sticking points between the city and the county.
I'm just wondering if we're at a point where we need to know what the current market value of the property is, maybe by engaging a commercial real estate company, or would that come after we have some more conversation with
Let me
the
answer
city?
part of that, Jeff. We did that not too long ago
Okay.
when we were talking about yet another project, and we've already come up with a difference of what it was back then versus what it is now. So that is, to me, part of the discussion that would take place. We're going to have to start all over again. I mean, we have some groundwork done. We have some general agreements, but it needs to be discussed further. We all need to, the 3 entities need to sit down, make sure that's exactly what they want, that's what we want, that's what the city wants, come to an agreement, the agreement be brought in front of us, the agreement be brought in front of the city. All the procedural stuff that needs to be done, because right now, it's just not. It's a non-existent thing. So I would suggest, yes, you continue on with the discussion with the city and the county and come back to us and see where we are on this 3-way ILA agreement.
I completely agree with you, Chair Spencer, and the only other thing that I'm interested in, because all of our other development agreements for deals inside the industrial park have some sort of a deliverable, so I'd like to know if the building's funded, when do they expect to build the building, because we have consistently had expectations of other people that if we're doing the deal on the land, we expect to see some movement.
Right, and we may find out at the end of the discussion that it's not a deal. We're going to have to have a different approach. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. If that's the end of the discussion, then like I said, I believe we're going to give you direction to go ahead and continue on with your discussions with the 3 entities. Is everybody in agreement with that? Okay, very good.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to 3.8, discussion regarding the proposed Economic Development Forum 2023, scheduled for January 27th, 2023.
So in conversation and visiting some other entities and looking at their economic development forums, we collectively as staff decided that we should bring that right here to our home. And so we are working with the Convention Center to host this event from 8:30 a.m. until noon on January 27th, 2023. And the 3 topics that we will be discussing in that time frame will be Economic Development 101, Economic Development Law, as well as the economic development outlook of the community and the area. So we are awaiting some finalization of actions. We've got one that's kind of, that haven't gotten a solid agreement with yet, but we are looking at Denton Navarro for the law portion of it Dan Santee will be joining us that day. And then Economic Development 101, we will have Carlton Schwab from TEDC that will come and speak. And as many of you know, he actually also helps lobby for certain rules, regulations, et cetera, around economic development, rules and law as well for us. So we're very excited about this. We're very excited to, one, invite all of you, as well as all of the council members and the community to come join us and be a part of this day, come ask questions, engage and be involved in the future of economic development right here in the community.
I, for one, think it's a great idea. I mean, for us to be able to have a forum where you and the speakers can talk about the value of ED. What does it do? Where do your tax dollars go to? So that people understand it's a wonderful marketing forum, and to me, I think it's a great idea.
Any additional questions?
I guess we need to say, yeah, go ahead, continue on, right? Okay, well then, I guess we're directing you to do that. I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
Okay, moving on then to 3.9, presentation and update regarding infrastructure for the MOCA project.
I'm going to invite Disset Engineering to come up and give you all a quick update on that. Just a brief bit before he gets into the land planning aspect of it. I checked with the city manager earlier today, and as of yet, MOCA has not turned in any plans to move their project forward. So as much as it was brought to our attention that we were an impediment, we're really not, and we're certainly moving everything forward as quickly as we can on our end. Dave will give you an update not only in the MOCA project, but we also have, I think, a better idea and inclination of phase 2 of the business park and the connectivity on how that will go through, and he can kind of give you a brief update on what we've worked with the city on to make that happen as well. Thank you.
Hi, David Spiker with Doucette and Associates. Should have in your packet some updates of what we've accomplished since the last meeting we had.
David, that was actually sent out via separate email and also placed in the board's Dropbox account. We didn't receive it in time for the packet.
Oh, okay. Hopefully you've had a chance to look it over.
Would you like to show the old map or the new map first?
How about we look at, I want to look at this map here. So based off of the meeting that we had the prior month with the city staff, your city manager gave us a lot of good clarification on how to best move forward, and we really cleaned house. And now we've come up with a new layout, which is going to literally say, I'll just say, conserve the eastern portion of the property more because it's really hard to develop it, save money. So we've come up with this schematic here. We do have to make another tweak to this schematic based off of a potential purchaser that's coming in already. So we got to make another change to this. We're probably about 90 to 95% complete on the first extension, the Jackson River extension, and the cul-de-sac road that we don't have a name for yet. I keep picking on y'all, but we got to get a name for that road. So we're about 90, 95% complete with that project. And we've got the warrant turned in for the zoning issues, and we should be able to submit probably Thursday. We may wait till next week, the replat of the properties. So we're turning everything in. We're really going, it's full speed ahead for us right now. And so, you have any questions?
Mr. Spike, I had a question, and I think you answered it, but I just want to make sure it's clear for the public and for the rest of the board. On the extension, there were several things that said like completed next QA/QC reviewed, and that's internal to Doucette, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Well, we're doing a QA/QC review, and I should have also said we're doing a constructability review.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not needing anything from us on this particular road
Just the
extension?
winning lottery numbers, and I'll be good to go.
No, that comes over here. I'm sorry. We've already called dibs on that one.
No, sir, I'm
Thank you,
just here to help give you an update. And
Yeah, this is just an update on what's been happening and allowing you and we're going to continue to do this monthly, so y'all will know where we're at in this project, because I don't want there to be any misconceptions again that we're trying or that we're in somehow the ability of holding this project up. We're really not. One thing I do want to point out is there's a dotted line on the eastern half which begins the Houston Toad Reserve area. And it's, in essence, basically from that point eastward to the boundary line that we have looked at and said it's extremely challenging to develop that area. So that's why the road system has been altered just to come down off of Jackson and loop over to Technology. That's going to open up the property quicker for us to market because that property through there doesn't have the elevation issues that the eastern portion does. That still gives us the ability to figure out something that we can do with the eastern portion if we opt to donate it to the city for a non-motorized trail system or something. You know, we have that ability. There may be a developer who would step up at some point in time and want to acquire and do something with it. But from our standpoint, for infrastructure in the park, that's where the cost was driven up significantly. And we'll try to further analyze that and let you know what the cost difference would be if we attempted to develop that part. But as you can see, the extension of Jackson to come down and 90 over to Technology Drive gives us the ability to have all the rest of that buildable area ready fairly quickly so we can get out and market it and get it sold and get projects built.
How many acres is that east of the Houston toad habitat?
I don't know, ma'am, I'm sorry. We'll get you a map the next time and we'll have that acreage in there for you.
Because we've also asked about how much the acreage that we'll have to sell afterwards will be. We don't want to plot it out and say, here's 10-acre plots, but we certainly want to know, you know, in like 2 or 3 areas, okay, there's 40 acres here, there's 50 here, there's whatever. Because that way we know what
Well, and if it's all in the Houston Toad, obviously the county's going to have to get involved on what can be developed out there in that area. Actually, I said the county, that's in city limits, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it just mean I guess the wild fish and wildlife then would need to be involved.
Well, the
in it.
county's, the Lost Pines toad habitat,
Falls under the, okay.
Yeah, they
okay.
do manage that.
Then I was, okay.
yeah,
okay,
you
very
were
good.
right. You
Hey,
should
wow.
go with your first
Let me-
instinct.
Hold on, let me write that down.
It's all of the above. It's in the city limits, but managed by the county.
Got it, okay, yeah. Yeah. I don't mind being corrected, it's okay. All right, very good. Thank you very much for the update.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Getting down to 3.10, discussion and possible action on a request by the city of Bastrop to fund an intersection improvement study in the amount of $22,500.
Tracy, you want to come up and talk about this intersection study?
Good evening. So, as you know, there were certain projects that the EDC put in their budget that were city projects. And so, as we get these projects, the contracts on these projects, we'll be bringing forward with a resolution requesting that EDC approve the resolution for the funding. So this first one is for the intersection studies that there was $230,000 requested in the budget. I did have a question on why is this only $22,500? This is just the first step, and it's what we have a contract on. And so this will be the study of those intersections, which will generate an engineering contract. But until we have that engineering contract, this is what we have to ask that you fund.
And if you would do me a favor and refresh my memory, because it only works when it works, which intersections are you referring to?
Yes, so this is 71 at Hassler, and 71 at Childers, and 71 at 304.
We had a lot of discussion on that during the CIP
Right,
discussion
I think
part.
it was you're going to end up doing a study, and it was, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know there are issues at Hassler, 304, and Childers, and so let's move forward on those, and that's why in the body of the report, it's like they're going to come back with recommendations on lane changes and different things to do, because otherwise we would be working on this after they did a full transportation study. And I think my memory of our CIP discussion was this is some pretty low-hanging fruit that would make all of our citizens quite happy, not to mention our folks that visit our retail areas of Burleson Crossing to try to do as much as can possibly be done to improve those intersections.
Highway 95 was on the list, but TxDOT has already moved forward with looking at that intersection, so we were able to take it off of our list.
Was 304 one of the ones that's going to get a flyover at TxDOT or no?
Oh, I have no idea.
304 has a flyover. That's
Yeah.
Burleson.
304, I'm
Yeah,
thinking of
that's
it.
where the Covert dealership and the
Yeah.
strip center thing is.
My mistake.
It's one of the issues.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I remember was a discussion on do we have the ability to do an intersection study, and it was sound that, yes, we can do an intersection study. So I don't think there's a need for a resolution on this, right? We can just go ahead and say we're going to approve the release of the funds. Is that everybody's pretty much understanding?
The understanding at the time during the CIP project meetings was that there would be a resolution for each project at the time that the city requests the funding for the project. That way we've papered everything. There's no more handshake agreements, if you will. It's all in writing.
So then where's the resolution?
It's in the packet.
It's just not on the agenda.
Correct, because I didn't have it when I did the
Okay.
agenda.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I see it now.
sorry.
Okay. It's okay.
Yeah, and it actually defines how we get reimbursed and everything, so it's,
So my only issue is on page 3, it says it's an agreement for broadband deployment feasibility study report.
I thought I changed all that.
Okay.
I cheated and used a resolution that we had already used.
So
So
if we
yes,
approve
with the
this
correction.
resolution, we'd have a caveat of taking out that section. Yeah, we'd have to take out section A of that resolution because it's not
We
corresponding.
just changed the name. All I did was change it from broadband to the intersection study.
There's just one spot, all the other places it says intersections, so. And the resolution itself, that's, the page 53 or whatever is an attachment, an exhibit attachment.
We'll need a motion. Do we hear a motion for this resolution?
Make a motion to approve the agreement with the city of Bastrop and corresponding resolution. That would be, do we have a number?
That'd be
second it.
2022-13.
2022-13.
With the stated correction.
Got a second?
I second it.
We've got a second to the thirded. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those not in favor? Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, let me get on back to the agenda here. Okay, well, that is that section. We're going to move into section 4, the executive session. The BEDC Board of Directors will meet in a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Chapter 55, to discuss the following. Number 1, Section 551-087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations on Project Triple Arrow and Project Walk of Fame. Section 2, number 2, Section 551.074, personnel matters, to deliberate the salaries of the following individuals: the operations manager, business and workforce project manager, and marketing and small business project manager. So we're going to go into executive session, and the time now is 6:23. All right, it is now 7:33, and we are back in open session. Mr. Lau?
Mr. Chair, I move that we authorize and direct our CEO to implement an 8% increase in salaries for our operations manager and our business and workforce project manager to be effective 1/1 of 2023, and also to direct the CEO to create and post the position of marketing and small business development project manager position with the appropriate salary.
Do we have a second for that?
I second that.
Great. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
I'll second that. All right, we've adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.